Labor Movements During the Gilded Age by Kevin Schran, Kayvon Parson, Elizabeth Hall, and Adam Witt. The Gilded Age, a term coined by author Mark Twain from his novel The Gilded Age, A Tale of Today, was a period in American history characterized by immeasurable corruption in the political system and the ruthless pursuit of profit by corporations. As more factories were being built, the amount of factory workers increased, and due to the factories being privately owned, those that owned them wanted to save as much money as possible. To accomplish this, workers were underpaid, worked unreasonable hours, and had obscene working conditions. These conditions prompted the workers to go on strikes until their demands were met, and led to the creation of unions such as the Knights of Labor. The Knights of Labor were a secret society of tailors in Philadelphia. They had about 700,000 members and worked to gain 8-hour workdays, the abolition of child labor, equal pay for men and women, and political reforms. One of the reforms the Knights of Labor supported was the Chinese Exclusion Act. The Chinese Exclusion Act, signed by Chester Alan Arthur, prohibited immigration of Chinese laborers. Regardless of the small percentage of Chinese in America, this law proved effective. They were officially unable to migrate to the U.S. starting in 1902. This also provoked other movements to prevent other groups of people to come to the U.S. Another effective union was the American Federation of Labor, or the AFL. The AFL was created by a man named Samuel Gompers, a key figure in American labor history. Their main purpose was to organize skilled workers, people whose job required special training, such as plumbers or craftsmen, into national unions consisting of other unions. Their main demands consisted of better working conditions, shorter hours, and higher wages. At its peak, the American Federation for Labor had roughly 1.4 million members. Unions such as these were fairly successful, but certain factors such as the stream of immigrants that needed jobs suspended the effectiveness of these unions, because, since there were people ready to work in the place of those that went on strike, the workers were easily replaced. Another cause for unions and strikes to be ineffective are depressions. Depressions are long and intense periods of recession in the economy. This led to high unemployment rates. So much so, people were reluctant to risk their jobs to fight for improvements, ceasing strikes, a union's most effective weapon. These, however, are not the only reasons unions were not as successful as they wished. The way they were portrayed by the media had a harmful effect on the support they received. They were depicted as violent, bloodthirsty radicals. This point of view of unions came from events like the Haymarket bombing. A group of people not affiliated with the protesters set off a bomb in Haymarket Square, which the union protesting took the fall for. But not only factories had unions. The American Railroad Union was a railroad union made to protect the interests and well-being of all railroad workers. One of the most memorable actions of the American Railroad Union was the Pullman strike. This strike resulted from the company's president, George M. Pullman, cutting already low wages, causing many families to starve. Many workers attempted to ask Pullman for higher wages, which he had unfairly fired them for. This resulted in the strike of roughly 50,000 workers against the Pullman Company and the federal government of the United States. But because of the railroad's importance, the federal government was forced to intervene. Richard Onley, under direction from President Grover Cleveland, sent a military force to deal with the strike, and media coverage of the protests was generally negative. They were depicted as a mob of anarchists defying the law, and when all was said and done, all employees involved were fired. Ultimately, unions were crushed by large corporations, and the men who owned them reaped the benefits. Unions only benefited in stopping practices that would have been seen as important by today's standards. They brought attention to child labor and horrid work conditions with unforgiving pay, and that led to the standard of work today by paving the path for things such as maximum work hours and minimum wage. Such movements also led to the creation of Labor Day, an appreciation for the hard work and contributions American workers have made. They weren't as effective as they wished, but the early unions played a major factor in creating the United States we work in today.